Hello and good afternoon. I hope the coffee break has activated your brains. And interestingly, as a user and as an owner of a brain, you actually don't know how it works. You open your eyes and reality is just there, right? And as a neuroscientist, I try to understand why this is so. And science has made progress in understanding how the brain works. We have discovered different areas in the brain which are responsible for different things like speech or when we listen to music, and we can somehow understand how the incoming data is translated into electrical signals. But a theory for the whole brain, a grand unified brain theory, is still missing. But recently a promising candidate showed up at the horizon, and the basic hypothesis is that the brain is a prediction machine. And this theory also can explain why we have to experience illusions and our brain's special relationship to reality. And the question about this relationship is visualized in the classic metaphor of Platos Cave. If people are chained to a cave from the day of their birth and all they would ever see is a theater of shadows, then they would have to take these shadows for the reality. And since their direct access to the world in general is very limited, even if this is just a nice epistemological metaphor, the situation for us is similar. Our brain is living in a cave as well. The skull is its cave. And all it can see, all of our conscious experiences are just shadows constructed from our sensory signals. And of course, science, in the meantime, allows us inside the skull and watch the thinking brain in action. And via imaging devices like fMRI scanners, we can look inside. But the very task of the brain is a very difficult one. 500 million years of evolutionary pressure formed it to provide us with a coherent material and internal model of the world, which is taken from uncertain and ambiguous data. Especially the unity of our visual consciousness, however, is a necessity so we can act, make decisions, and survive. So there is a price to pay for the flexibility of our brain's perceptual mechanisms, and this is that our perception sometimes falls for illusions, which scientists like, since we can study the way the brain mechanisms work through these illusions. And one example is the following illusion, which was discovered 13 years ago by Dr. Yoram Bonnet, and it's called the motion-induced blindness illusion. It's shown right there. I would like you to watch the blinking dot in the middle. And after a few seconds, the static bigger dots should randomly appear, disappear, and reappear again. So maybe hands up for everyone who is experiencing this in a random fashion. Okay, so it works. And this is a big gap between the conscious reality in your mind and the actual physical reality, since this is not a digital manipulation. On the screen, these big dots are always present. So the fact that we fall for these perceptual illusions is rather helpful for science in order to examine how the brain works. So this is already suggested by Hermann von Helmholtz 150 years ago, who called the automatic neural processes of visual illusions and perception in general an unconscious inference that is urged on our consciousness as if an external power has constrained us over which our will has no control. So this new theory of the brain as a prediction machine assumes that the brain uses these unconscious inferences in order to calculate probabilities of what is going to happen next, and generally tries to avoid surprises. So the basic calculations are based on a 300-year-old theorem of probabilities by Thomas Fraps called Bayes' rule. And One, two, 1, 2. 1. Okay. Well, I survived. Where was I? Well, Bayes' rule is, that was actually quite unpredictable. But Bayes' rule tries to be able to give a probability measure to quantify our degrees of belief, and the theorem links the degree of belief in a proposition A before and after accounting for new evidence by sensory input. And the brain as a prediction machine implements these Bayesian statistics via a hierarchical top-down feed-forward signal and assumes that we are all optimal Bayes observers choosing the most probable hypotheses given our past experience and current sensory input. And the question is, however, does the brain implement the internal probabilistic model in its neural wetware? Yes, it does, by minimizing the mismatch between its predictions and what actually happens. A process called prediction error minimization, which is especially encoded via the dopaminergic neurons and their cortothalamic cortical feedback loops. In order to be minimized, the prediction error has to be quantified using a well-known formula from Bayesian statistics, which you can see here in a simplified version. And in order to give you an easier to understand illustration of this equation, we can also visualize this equation with the so-called prediction error minimization matrix. Are there any questions? No, good. Okay, so I will then continue with the second part of my talk, leaving the easy to understand part behind, moving on to some theory. Well, can I? Okay, good. So, yes, let's leave technology behind, actually, the T in TED. And actually, I think to experience illusions is much better than talking about them, and to have an emotional experience of an illusion, and that's why we want to have a second glance at this talk, so to speak, since all the technical malfunctionings are fake. They were staged. They were there to give you some kind of illusion. So if we click back, you see this was only a slide, the whole fake mess up, okay, perfect. And also the fact that this clicker is just actually pen and paper is an illusion, and actually also this microphone is an illusion, and this was all staged for your entertaining purposes. Thank you very much. But maybe the biggest illusion of them all is that I'm not actually Dr. Peter Whitman, but I'm actually Thomas Fraps, a professional magician and not a neuroscientist, and I don't have a PhD, which you actually lose quite fast in Germany recently. And I'm not affiliated with any kind of university, but with the MIT, the Munich Institute of Trick Technology. And I have a degree in TED, in tricks, entertainment, and deception. And the organizers brought me here in order, as a Trojan entertainment device, as a TED, to give you some illusions, and especially to be here for your entertainment pleasure. Cheers! So. Perfect. Thank you. And to continue with the talk, our brain actually always sometimes uses shortcuts, you know. There's a complex problem to solve, perception, and as H.L. Mencken once said, to every complex problem, there is an answer that this is easy, short, and wrong. And sometimes the brain takes the wrong answer, and actually I would like to make a little bit of a warm-up movement with you. Everybody wants to join in, just do this, and relax your wrists, that's important. Oh, don't worry, that was an acoustical illusion. You all thought this noise came from my wrist, but actually it came from a completely different place. It was actually my neck. But you think, so that's the shortcut you take? No, actually, the secret is a plastic cup, which I have underneath my arm, right there. And the easy thing is now you can take this home with you, okay? So all you need to do is take a plastic cup, and we are prepared. We have a workshop going on here. And I would like you to join in. Perfect. Yep. Perfect. That's good. And just try this out. Maybe next time you go to a chiropractor. And perfect. And we have some more visual illusions coming up here. And I would like to show you some which are better in print than on digital. Okay, did you have a cup? Yeah, you did have a cup. Okay, the noise is, okay, perfect. So if you look at these tables from Roger Shepard, if nothing actually seems obvious to you, and you don't even notice that this is an illusion already happening, because the areas of these two tables are completely equal. And not in the square centimeter sense, but in the actual length and width sense. That's why I have this cardboard. And if I take this over here, you can see that it's exactly the same size. Now, I think these illusions are quite interesting because you don't even know that you are witnessing an illusion. This is another one, which is a digital image, a grayscale image, but you would suggest and think that the lower one is brighter than the upper one. But if I take away the shading, you can see that those are actually both the same grayscale. But also here, you wouldn't think that this is something which you would experience in the first place. Now, this is a distorted image of a bowling ball. This is an anamorphic illusion, and maybe if the camera can just get this, and only with the camera it works, so I would urge you to look at the screen, we would be able to get a sort of a round ball if you get a little bit. Okay, so the thing should be rounder and have some sort of three-dimensional image even. And you can look these up, but if you are still a bit skeptical, I guess I will present the latest gadget. This is not only a pad, a paper-aided design, this is also a 3D printer. And if I start the printing process and I squeeze, and then we have this bowling ball printed out in 3D, right? So, I would like to introduce one last experiment, and as a world premiere of technological inventions, I will in a few minutes present my own world premiere of technological inventions. Oh, sorry, sorry. You know this when your feet hurts? Okay, just. Yeah, you can laugh. That really hurts. I mean, okay. So, Sie bekommen von mir hier ein 16:9-formatiges drahtloses Clipboard. Ja? Perfekt. Und noch einen Stift dazu. Genau. Einen großen Edding. Und Sie nutzen bitte die ganze Fläche dieses Papiers und machen eine Strichzeichnung, eine simple, sodass, wenn Sie es hier auffalten auf der Bühne, wir alle sehen zur späteren Verifizierung, was Sie gedacht haben. Meine Damen und Herren, die Weltpremiere meiner Erfindung ist ein weltweit erster mobiler Kernspintomograph. Ich darf bitten. Genau. Sehr schön. Herzlichen Dank. Genau. Das Ganze ist ein hybrides, bildgebendes Verfahren, ein Hybrid Medical Imaging System. Wir haben hier einen 80 Tesla Kernspintomographen im Submillimeter Voxelauflösungsbereich, No Quenching, ganz wichtig. Dann haben wir hier noch ein EEG angeschlossen, damit wir auch die schnellen Gehirnströme von Daniel ablesen können. Ja, so, Daniel, wenn Sie gezeichnet haben, ja, dann falten Sie bitte das Blatt Papier zweimal zusammen, bevor Sie auf die Bühne kommen, sodass Sie ein Papier- oder postkartengroßes Papierpaket bekommen. Haben Sie das? Gut, und dann stecken Sie es weg in Ihre rechte oder linke Hosentasche, denn wir brauchen jetzt eine Firewall, also eine Baumwoll-Firewall. Okay, wenn Sie das haben, dann kommen Sie einfach auf die Bühne, legen Clipboard und Buch am Bühnenrand ab und ein großer Applaus begleitet Sie auf die Bühne. Stecken Sie es ein. Stecken Sie es ein, damit ich überhaupt keine Chance habe, irgendwas zu erhaschen. Hallo Daniel, schön, dass Sie sich so freiwillig bereit erklärt haben. Okay, Sie kommen jetzt unter die Haube. So, genau, perfekt. Und wir schließen jetzt noch 2 Elektroden an, klar. Ja. Eine für die rechte, eine für die linke Gehirnhälfte. Genau, ja, Sie haben beide dabei, das ist sehr gut. Einmal rechts bitte, genau, einmal links. So, die sind Titan-Vanadium-legiert, keine Sorge. So, kann überhaupt nichts passieren. Jetzt das Ganze bitte in den Hippocampus-Bereich des Neokortex halten. Okay, also an die Stirn. Genau. Und, ja, klar, wir brauchen noch Strom. Klar, wir brauchen Strom. Ja, nee, haben wir gleich. Wir haben, was brauchen wir? 32 Ampere. Habt ihr mir 32? Ja, habt ihr, gut. Genau, passt, ja. Genau, 32 Ampere, das kriegen wir hin. So, keine Sorge, Daniel, da kann überhaupt nichts passieren, das ist ein Prototyp. Ja? So, einfach an die Stirn halten, okay. Und jetzt bitte fest, letzte Frage, wo wohnen Sie?
In München.
In München. Und wo in München, wenn ich fragen darf? Grobe Ecke?
Neuhausen.
Neuhausen? Okay, da muss ich umstecken, Moment, genau. So, richtig kalibriert. Sie fangen an zu denken. Ganz wichtig, Sie denken jetzt an Ihre Zeichnung, aber in Farbe bitte, okay? Und wir haben eine spezielle Software entwickelt, auch Weltpremiere heute für TED. Eine App, mit der wir in der Lage sind, Ihre Gehirnwellenströme zu lesen. Sie starten mit dem Denken und wir starten die Software, die Analyse-Software.
Warning. No brain detected. Check the cables.
Moment, da muss ich, Daniel, sorry. Kontakt halten zum Hirn, wichtig? Okay, gut. Einfach Konzentration. Ja. Oh, nein. Konzentration, Daniel. Nein, Daniel. Ja, jetzt besser, genau. Sie denken zu schnell für meinen Rechner. So, ja. Okay, wir sehen Ihr Gehirn. Wir brauchen nur ein Standbild, Daniel. Sie sind so ein Schnelldenker. Da kommt unser... Aha, Sie haben aufgehört zu denken, sehr gut. Wären Sie so nett, lassen die Elektroden bitte fallen. Genau, wir haben alles live ins Internet gestreamt, sowieso, aber jetzt ist wichtig, nehmen Sie bitte Ihre Zeichnung heraus, falten sie auf und halten Sie ins Publikum oder in die Kamera. Und wenn das nur ungefähr übereinstimmt, dann müsste die Premiere geglückt sein. Das haben wir. Ja, sehr schön. Super, herzlichen Dank. Vielen Dank. Daniel, das ist doch super. Daniel. Vielen Dank, Daniel. Wir wollen noch einmal zurückkommen hier zum Gehirn, zum Anfang des Vortrags und nochmal ins Gehirn wirklich hineinschauen. Einen zweiten Blick, a second glance at the brain. Und wir wollen noch ganz kurz die Höhle von Plato nachahmen. Und dazu kommt etwas Licht auf die Bühne und eine Leinwand. Wir stellen uns ins halbe Dunkel und wir schalten das Licht an. Denn es gibt noch einen Herrn, Sie haben auch noch ein Buch erwischt. Welches Wort denken Sie aus diesem Buch? Wie bitte? Delfin. Und ich nehme ein Hirnareal hier heraus und halte es als Schatten in Platos Höhle. Und ich hoffe, dass Sie am Ende dieses Vortrags erkannt haben, dass Illusionen nicht nur spielerisch sind und Spaß machen, sondern einfach in unserer Natur eingebaut sind und oft die Perspektiven zu wechseln noch mehr Spaß macht. Herzlichen Dank.